UK drill fans are going wild right now after a West London rapper called Absav dropped probably the rudest 3 songs to ever come out. In today's video, we are going into the backstory of these 3 diss tracks, which will clear up a lot about why they are so violent. Let's get into it. So if you're not up to date, like I said before, West London rapper Absav just dropped 3 of the rudest diss tracks that ever come out. So rude and disrespectful that it's even opening the question of if dissing the dead should be illegal. Now I know a couple of you guys probably have not heard the songs, so I've put them on the screen now. But we'll be breaking them down and going through the history behind all of this. So the rapper who dropped these tunes is a rapper called Absav, who's from an area called Norfolk, at the edge of West London. And from the outside in, it doesn't look like the worst area, but Norfolk is home to Absav's gang, N-Gang. N-Gang is also part of a bigger gang across the London borough of Ealing, which is a collective of members from towns in Ealing called Southall, Greenford and of course Norfolk. The reason they're called 156 is because the areas covered in the gang are UB1, UB5 and UB6 postcodes. 156 beef quite a lot of West London, especially its surrounding areas, but they're mainly into it with a gang from Rayners Lane, which is a 7-minute drive from Norfolk where Absav is from. But 156 are better known for their feud with another gang from West London called CGM, which is infamously the gang of the big rapper Digga D. And despite the beef between Rayners Lane and 156 being more personal, most people are probably familiar with CGM and 156 issues, mainly just because CGM are much more well known than Rayners Lane, with CGM rapper Digga D hitting mainstream type of views on his songs, and other members like Rack 5 and Horrid 1 hitting decent numbers as well. But a big reason to do with CGM's blow up on the scene was actually to do with 156. CGM burst onto the scene around 2016 to 17 under their old group's name 1011, and they blew up faster than any other group at the time, gaining millions upon millions of views in some of their first songs as a group. But one of the main reasons for CGM's blow up was due to a murder which took place in the beef between Rayners Lane and 156. On April 11th 2017, a 156 member called T-Wiz barely even just walked out of his Norfolk home until he was approached by 2 Rayners Lane members. T-Wiz was heard arguing with the 2 Rayners Lane members before he was stabbed in his stomach. The 2 attackers then fled the scene, and sadly T-Wiz died later that day. CGM blew up a lot on their early songs due to this death, with CGM mocking him in every song, making the name T-Wiz a well-known name in the UK just off his death. CGM even mocked T-Wiz so much that members were even banned from saying his name in any future songs. One of the killers of T-Wiz was a Rayners Lane member called T-Rose, and him and the other guy actually managed to beat the murder case due to self-defense. After beating the case, T-Rose then went on to make a drill song about the murder, while also recreating the scene of the murder in the music video. And even while years went by after T-Wiz's murder, 156 members were still out to get him. T-Rose moved around 3 hours from London to a small town called Telford. 156 caught wind of this and rid out 3 hours to Telford, caught T-Rose and shot him to death 3 years after the murder of T-Wiz. 2 hours before T-Rose's death on the 13th of October, back in London, another batch of 156 members were also driving around Hayes with a shotgun and revolver, looking for members of another rival gang to 156 called Purple Haze, when they spotted someone who allegedly had links to the gang called Shaq. The members in the car then proceeded to shoot Shaq multiple times with the revolver, sadly killing him on the scene. The car was then dumped, doused with petrol and burnt a few miles away from the shooting. 5 people have been charged with this murder so far, including a 13-year-old boy, but are yet to go to trial. Absav mentions both T-Wiz and Shaq's murder in his Table Turns 1 song, saying 24 hours 2 got dropped. And even at the start of his second diss track, he mocks T-Rose by pretending he's a skeleton. The reason for this was because a couple years back, CGM member Horrid 1 mocked T-Wiz by pretending he's a skeleton of him. See, a year before the double murder of Shaq and T-Rose, the tables are very much turned in this feud. Now if you listen to CGM rapper Digga D's tunes, you'll probably hear or see him mentioning a guy called Jojo, or you might have seen him with a diamond ring with the words Free Jojo engraved in it. Well, Jojo was a Rayners Lane member who was getting into it heavy with 156. so much that the feds had to relocate him more than an hour away from Rayners Lane to East London and Ilford to keep him out of trouble after he caught a couple cases. But unfortunately, this didn't stop him from getting into it with 156 members, which was clear on November the 18th, 2017. On this day, Jojo left his Ilford home carrying a black motorcycle helmet at 4:45 PM and got a train from Ilford to Norfolk, territory of the 156 gang. He then met up with 3 friends, and around 10 PM, with 2 mopeds and shanks, they started to circle around Norfolk looking for 156 members. Unfortunately, on some bad timing, some affiliates of 156 just happened to grab some drinks from a shop and were heading back to their friend's house to enjoy their Saturday night. When they got to a road called Newnham Close in Norfolk, which was the same road their friend T-Wiz happened to be stabbed to death a few months back, Jojo and his friends spotted the group and jumped off their mopeds to try to catch up to them. The 156 group split up and started running for their lives. But once Jojo and his friends got back on their mopeds looking for the group, they managed to spot an 18-year-old called Jason Isaacs in a dead end separated from his group, which resulted with Jason being stabbed 8 times from a sword and machete. Jason managed to get himself to a friend's house and eventually to a hospital, but a few days later, sadly, he was pronounced dead. The mopeds from the attack were dumped but later recovered by police, and once the forensic team investigated them, Jojo's blood was discovered on one of the bikes. Not only that, but when the feds pulled up to Jojo's house, they recovered the same puffer jacket, hoodie and helmet which was shown on the CCTV from the attack. Jojo was eventually charged with the murder, but the only issue was that there was 3 more people to catch. The evidence was crazy on Jojo, but the feds didn't want him just to go down for the murder, but Jojo refused to testify against his friends, and ultimately was sentenced to life with a minimum of 20 years. Just like T-Wiz, Jay was heavily mocked in songs, mainly from Rayners Lane members, with no type of remorse for the 2 young lives which were lost, and you could tell mentally this really took a toll on Absav, who had just lost 2 of his friends. In the recent interview he just done with Fumes the Engineer, he talks about how people were dissing his friends for years, and back then for a lot of people it was all fun and games, without anyone realizing that certain guys actually lost a friend in real life. He goes on to say that the reason he called these diss tracks Tables Turned because he was just replying to all the disses his gang has been getting for years. And when we actually look at the lyrics of his Tables Turned songs, you can see that a lot of disses actually go lyric to lyric with the same disses opposition gangs have said previously, but obviously just changed up to fit the agenda of his gang. But despite all of this, some people still think Absav went too overboard, talking about a lot of sensitive situations, like a CGM member called AP's mum dying. He then even goes into dissing big UK drill rapper Russ, by pretty much saying CGM can't try what they done to Russ, with him dissing AP's mum. A bit of backstory on this, basically around 2 years ago, just like Absav, drill rapper Russ also dissed AP's mum in the group chat between Russ and CGM members. At the time, Russ was cool with CGM, mainly because his right hand, another drill rapper called Taze, is cousins with a couple CGM members. After dissing AP's mum, Russ had the show, but after decided to go to CGM's block, thinking he's still cool with them. But the tables turned and CGM members robbed Russ for his chain. For a period of time, it seemed like 156 and Russ were cool though, with a 156 member called Nito MB, even featuring on a remix of Russ's hit single 630. But once the song came out, Nito started demanding all over his socials that he wants the song to be taken down, which it eventually was. But despite these CGM and Russ disses, it's clear that Rayners Lane was the biggest focal point on these songs, with countless disses towards them, mentioning situations like a double shooting on Rayners Lane members in 2018, or when 5 156 members ran into a kebab shop and shot at a couple Rayners Lane members in 2020. But one of the most painful disses was on a situation that took place quite recently, on the 11th of June 2021. A 15-year-old Rayners Lane member who went by the name J Taps was on his way to school around 8:30 in the morning when he unfortunately bumped into a 156 member. In video footage, which is way too graphic to post on here, you can see the two get into a tussle, which ended with J Taps being stabbed multiple times and soaked in the blood of Paul in his own school clothes. This was literally broad daylight in front of herds of kids making their way towards school. After the stabbing, the kid ran away from the scene, with even builders who are working on the site nearby trying to catch up to the kid until the police came. A 156 member called Slims is currently awaiting trial for this murder, who was also only 15 and was making his way to school, which is crazy to think that this feud is running so deep that school kids from each side are turning on each other. In Absav's second diss track, he even mocked J Taps for not making it to his 16th birthday, way, which is sad to know that somebody so young lost their life to this feud. Just before J-Tap's death, he was seen in a couple pictures throwing up gang signs, and literally just a few days before his death, he was seen in the Rainers Lane music video called For Real, which would have made him a target for 156 members. Apart from Rainers Lane, Absav also takes a dig at pretty much half of West London. Areas like West Drayton, South Acton and Wildstone, who are all lesser known areas to have conflicts with 156, which really makes you deep how much beef 156 actually have. But I want to know what everybody thinks of these tracks. Do people think Absav went too far on these? Or do people think it's justified due to the previous mocking of his friends? And most importantly, do people think these tracks are even worth it? It's definitely got the whole community talking and hearing about Absav, which could work to his favour in his future career. But with the police taking down his songs, his YouTube channel and even his TikTok, he's probably gonna have trouble in the future making any songs without them being taken down, with the police pretty much having control of what is allowed to be put out there. These tracks also might get him blackballed from the industry, with a lot of labels and shows not really wanting to get involved with controversial artists, which can mess up their brand, which may even prevent other artists from wanting to work with him also. I do think Absav is a very talented artist, and if he plays his cards right, he could capitalize on the boost of clout he's now got. But if he doesn't, he's in danger of letting these tracks overshadow his career. It's been your boy Kid Nerd, and peace out. I've partnered up with Atlas VPN to give you a deal of a lifetime. Now I'm sure most of you know what a VPN is, but for those that don't, it pretty much allows you to browse the internet through an encrypted tunnel, which protects you from spying, public Wi-Fi dangers, and also hides your IP address and your online activities. Not only that, but it also allows you to browse the internet in different locations, allowing you access to Netflix, Amazon Prime and Disney Plus content which is not available in your country. I know the UK Netflix can be quite dead. With Atlas VPN, you can switch your device's location to Canada and then gain access to films like Harry Potter, The Avengers and Lord of the Rings, movies which you can't watch on UK's Netflix. I personally use this service to tap into specific websites which are only available in certain countries, which helps me with my research on videos. Right now, Atlas VPN is running a huge discount. You could get a 3-year subscription for just $1.99 a month, and if you're not happy, you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get your deal by clicking the link in the video description below, or search in your search bar get.atlasvpn.com/kidnerd.